I don't have anything to say for an intro for this one that doesn't just feel like a really worn out joke. So let's just do it. Patreon sponsor review time. This one, Footloose. This was a weird viewing experience for me. A couple of reasons for that. The first is I'd never seen it before, but the bigger thing is like this is one of those movies that product of its time works really well as a phrase. Now, a lot of times when people say that, they mean it in a like, oh, this aged badly kind of way. I don't necessarily mean that. I just mean it was designed to appeal to a specific audience at a specific point in time. And unless you either were the audience and actually saw it at the time, or at least were in that demographic and can understand the perspective of what the intended audience was, you probably aren't going to take a lot out of it. So that's where I'm at. Like, this isn't the kind of movie I would have liked, even if I mean, like, I was a little young to be seeing this at the time it came out. Actually, what year was this? I'm trying to. I'm drawing a blank now. 84. I was 2. So yeah, I definitely wasn't the target audience, but like I've seen other movies from the 80s that were from when I was that young that I did still connect with. This kind of nothing. And maybe it's a combination of my not having been a teenager at the right point in history. Maybe part of it is that despite growing up in a small town, it was never like that. So I'm not saying that small towns like this didn't exist or don't still exist. I'm just saying that, as someone who actually has a small town life experience, and it sure as hell isn't that, it makes it a little bit tricky for me to relate to. I think it would almost be easier for me to buy if I like had never grown up in a small town and like had just done city living. Because then I just, be like, oh yeah, no, that must be what small towns are like. And again, I'm not saying towns weren't actually like this. I'm just trying to explain why I had a hard time connecting with this. So, in addition to that, there's a few specific things about it that made it a little bit tricky. So Ariel, the female lead in it, I get what they were doing. I get it, and it makes total sense, and it's not even badly performed. That having been said, I kind of had a hard time connecting, relating, or really wanting to be in the presence of a character who one of the first things we see her do is almost get a bunch of people killed and then never show any remorse about that. And the extent to which the movie deals with her behavior like that basically boils down to, oh, well, she's got an oppressive parent, so of course she rebels. Like, okay, there's rebelling and there's almost getting people killed. And it's not the same thing. So, I don't know. By the end, I was like, okay, fine. I can get with this. But like there was a while. It took me way longer to get on side with her than I think the movie intended or should be the case. So that didn't help. I'll tell you what was kind of a pleasant surprise. Like, I knew John Lithgow was in this. And yes, we're not going to deal with my current issues with John Lithgow. There's a link to a video. But yeah, we're not tackling any of that today. I have issues with him for signing on for the Harry Potter TV show. I've talked about it before. Let me just talk about this movie now. Knowing that he was going to be, well, I thought the only antagonistic figure. He's not. There's somebody worse than him, which I also think was gilding the lily a little bit. It's kind of a hat on a hat and not necessary, especially considering how rough it got at some points with how abusive this other guy was. But anyway, coming back to John Lithgow, what I kind of expected, knowing that he was a primary antagonist figure in the movie and knowing that he was playing the preacher in a town that like thinks that, dancing is too sinful and needs to be outlawed. I was expecting fire and brimstone, shaking the Bible. Look, I was expecting a scenery chewing performance from Lithgow because when the man chews scenery, he eats the entire set. But that's not what I got. There was actually a lot more going on with his character, and it was actually really interesting and really well balanced. You could get the sense of a lot of his feelings having come from a position of pain, but also recognizing the people around him, some of the other towns members who are feel very empowered because they think the preacher's on their side, but they are actually like legit not good people doing bad things. And watching him kind of confront that and kind of have his own arc around that, it was interesting. And like there are a few fire and brimstone moments when he's actually in the church, but outside of that, he brings a lot of humanity to the character. I was kind of pleasantly surprised. I think that was probably the part I latched on to the most because there wasn't too much else that could surprise me about this. Like the premise kind of says it all. Town where people aren't allowed to dance, but teenagers want to dance. It's pretty much what you'd expect. Given that pitch, like with a couple of weird divergences, the way a fair amount of movies from the time would do, especially teenager movies, like, and then we'll show the kids doing this. Okay, why? Because that's what teenagers do, right? Like, is it though? Is it? And that's what we're going to spend time on? Okay. Like, these were not the most... They were believable as characters. They weren't necessarily believable as teenagers. But there's glimpses of stuff that has a little bit more going on, like with Lithgow. Like, as much as I kind of chafed against her early on, honestly, a bit with Ariel, but I kind of felt like if you're going to have a character in the state that Ariel seems to be in, I kind of would rather you made her the main character more so than Kevin Bacon, Ren, and actually like delve into what's going on with her, because there's a lot going on with her, and we kind of see it, but it's also not really properly delved into because she's the love interest. And I don't say that like she's a shallow character, but like if she didn't have to be secondary to Ren, or I guess some people might argue they have equal billing. I don't know about that. But even if they do, the time lost so that Ren can just be, frankly, a pretty stereotypical new kid in town type character, then I feel like we could have really delved into some of what was going on with her, which again, we see, but it doesn't really get explored. So yeah, it's odd. I tell you, more than anything, if I'm being completely honest, through most of the movie, I was bored. And I think that's a problem of the story beats just being absolutely predictable. And even though I hadn't seen the movie before, it's not like I had been like so immersed in the culture. Of course I know the plot. I didn't know the plot beyond the premise, but the premise kind of is the plot. So yeah, I was bored. I would love to either reformat this to be almost entirely about Ariel with Ren as a supporting character at most, or shave about 20 minutes off of it, because it for me at least, as someone who couldn't connect to it because I'm not the intended audience now, and I don't think I ever was. I don't think there ever was a point where I would have really connected to this movie. And like with that being my position, like I kind of wish it was, snappier and breezier. Boy, they used the song Footloose more times than they should. It's in the movie 3 times. It's the entire opening credits, and it's like the big dance finale at the end. Like those two, fine, but they also stick it in the middle of the movie. It's like, come on. Hey. And maybe I'm also not nostalgic enough for that particular kind of 80s music. That might also be part of it. I don't know. The dancing was decent, as far as these things go. I found myself viewing this more as like a time capsule or an artifact than anything else. I couldn't really connect to it. I understand that an audience absolutely existed and probably still does, and anyone who was the appropriate audience, if they grew up on this, probably loves the hell out of it, and I'm not taking that away from you, because trust me, there's plenty of movies I saw in the late 80s, early 90s that mean a lot to me, but it's because they were laser targeted to me at the time, and now I have nostalgia. I wouldn't recommend for people to watch them for the first time now, with plenty of stuff I grew up with and have a real soft spot for. And my gut instinct is this is that for a different kind of person from a slightly older generation than I'm from. also possibly from my generation. Like, I've noted that as an elder millennial, a lot of people my age and even slightly younger have a lot of nostalgia for the 80s, but I usually chalk that up to people who had older siblings and like they were absorbing, the millennials were absorbing 80s culture through their older sibling who was much more into it. So that's why like 80s MTV is something that I'm aware of, but have no point of reference for in terms of what it was like at the time, because I had no point of entry on that. I didn't have an older sibling, and I wasn't watching. So, anyways, that kind of became a tangent. Anyway, Footloose. It's okay. If it's an era of film that you have nostalgia for, maybe give it a shot. But otherwise, it just strikes me as something that doesn't have appeal outside of its target audience, which I am not. So, anyways, what do you think about this one? Did you see it, when it came out? Have you seen it lately? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills, and is in fact how I was commissioned to review this movie. But you don't have to support me at that tier. There are other options as well. Don't worry too much about it, though, because we take a relaxed attitude around here, so you can just come on back next time you need a break. And now to thank my highest supporting patrons: Robin Moore, Jared Boyce, Zubin Fulla, Auntie Kate 808, Mira G, Angry Casperl, Dave Hall, Movie Turtle, Oliver B, Sean Miller, Welsh Wrestling Geeks, Melissa Pedersen, Mary Mello, Becky Sparks, Loki Eris, Tracy Scrabbit, Pal Barabajoggle, and Sir Didymus is my favorite. Don't worry, the rats are all fine, but my rat wrangler is not here right now, and I thought we could have Archie say hi. Or not.